Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. It's exciting to be back at practice. We had our first practice this morning. You could tell that we didn't play that long ago. I think that's one of the benefits of playing late like we did in January. There's a lot of familiarity, whether it's drills to just young guys knowing where they're supposed to be. Some of these drills we just did with these young guys January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So that's the positive part, is the fact that we have a lot of guys that have not been away from football for that long. I think maybe the negative side of things is we had so many kids have season-ending surgeries that we're down quite a few numbers, especially in the defensive line. So we've got to be pretty creative on how we're doing practice right now. We like to do our double rep stuff. We don't have the ability to do that. So opposite of that, we have a team period going, and opposite of that, we have 7-on-7 just because we have a few more skilled kids. So we'll have to adapt and adjust quite a bit throughout the spring. We won't have a traditional spring game. We will have a few scrimmages, but not for very many plays because we're down so many defensive linemen for this spring. But it was a good first day, and guys were flying around, and good leadership, good energy. And we'll have another practice on Thursday, which will be same thing, just helmets and jerseys, and then have that week of spring break, which I forgot we didn't have spring break last year, so it was a grind going through everything. But this year we have spring break, and come back from that, we'll be able to put the pads on and go to work.
I know we got the press release, but what kind of drew you to coach Thad Ward, to coach the receivers this year?
A couple things. I'd met Thad a number of times through Brian Anderson. He and BA have been longtime friends, and I just had learned a lot about Thad. He'd been in a lot of really good places, visited with a few coaches that he worked under that spoke very, very highly of him as far as not only his knowledge of the game and his knowledge of receiver play, but building relationships and getting the most out of his receivers. And so it's been just a couple weeks, but like where it's heading right now.
And then with the offseason, was there any few players that really took a huge step forward through the strength and conditioning portion?
Well, everybody did in the fact of it was a shorter window. We didn't really get going until almost the 1st of February after taking a little bit of time off after the bowl game. But, just the amount of lean muscle mass and body fat lost and those things. There's a number of guys that really, I think helped their bodies out, and now we've got to continue that on for the rest of the spring.
Back to those numbers, even at 85, and you guys are fairly close to that, how difficult is it to keep everything in balance? You mentioned you've got more skill than big bodies right now. Yeah,
it's difficult, but we just got to be creative in what we're doing. I know that we need to be a little bit better in special teams, something that we as a staff talked about. We were good on special teams, but I think we can be better and need to be better on special teams. So that's another area that you typically don't have a lot of defensive, offensive linemen on some of those special teams units. So we're able to take a period of time and work special teams in place of a team period as well, just to keep pushing the young guys forward. We have so many young guys that I'm excited about, but just haven't played football and need constant repetition and constant coaching. And so we'll spend a lot of that time on special teams as well, trying to balance those some of our numbers out.
You don't bring in a experienced starting quarterback with the idea of not playing him, but he's not available this spring. So what does this spring? What kind of opportunities does it afford those other young guys?
Well, excited about those guys. Will is even bigger and stronger. Will's 245 probably, and just needs to continue to take repetitions, and he'll run with the ones this spring. Jaron's that much more experienced and better. Jake Rubley, we're excited about. We need to really push Jake this spring to give him some opportunities and see how his growth and development has been. And then Adrian's learning. He's out there doing all the things that he can. He can't throw right now this spring, but he's doing some of the footwork mechanics and run game things, and then visiting with Coach Klein. And Adrian's trying to get up to speed where everybody else is at and learning the offense.
Is Khalid Duke a full go for spring, or where is he at?
He is not. coming off of his surgery. He is not. He's just some individual drills right now. We hope to have him to be non-contact, some 7-on-7 things, hopefully around the 1st of April. But no, he will not be a full participant this spring.
Where do you kind of foresee him playing in a hybrid role?
Yeah,
defensive
both.
end?
He's going to play some, similar to what we did last year. He'll play some defensive end, true defensive end, and then he'll play some outside linebacker for us. It's probably disappointing that we don't get him all spring to find out, because he needs to be pushed more as a linebacker than he does as a defensive lineman. He's played D-line his whole time here, so he's really adept at that and really talented, and he's one of the best, I think, one of the best pass rushers we have in the Big 12. Now we just have to keep pushing him and keep having him learn as best he can, getting the limited snaps he has as a linebacker.
And what would you say as far as what has Crew Jackson's development been?
Crew's continuing to get stronger. He's continuing to try to put on weight. He's a long body. I think he's grown a couple inches since he's been here even. Covers so much ground. And he's going to take a ton of snaps. He'll play the Sam linebacker or nickel spot for us, and he's going to take a ton of snaps this spring. And we have to see what his best skill set is. Is can he rush the passer like a Khalid can? He's probably not going to be able to cover like a Reggie can, so we've got to do some different things with him. But he just covers so much ground out there. He's so long that he takes away a lot of throws just with his length.
How many defensive linemen would you say you're down this spring?
Well, I know we had 7 at practice today. So, if we were in double rep, we'd have 1 extra. So we don't have the ability to do it right now. But I look at a kid like Cody Stufflebean and Brendan Mott. Those 2 guys have been in our program a while, and I'm excited to see how they grow and develop. Cortez is the other one that's playing some defensive ends. We really have 3 defensive ends that we're trying to rotate through that we think can provide some much-needed assistance and depth for us this year. But those guys are going to get the lion's share of the reps against the Cooper Beebes and Christian Duffy, so they're going to get a great opportunity to see what they can do.
With Will stepping back in to, I guess, be the starting quarterback for spring stuff again, just like last year, what's the next step in maturation for him? What do you want to see?
Just feeling more confident throwing the football. He understands our offense so well, and Coach Klein does a phenomenal job with him. And he's really I was in the quarterback meeting this morning. He's just so crisp and confident in what he's doing. Same with Jaron. They just know what we're doing so well offensively. Now it is making the right read, being decisive, being confident and pulling the trigger and rolling. I saw some really good throws he made today and some seam routes to Phillip that excited all of us, because it's like, okay, we've seen this out of Will. Now it's a consistency, and Will knows that as well. Will's a really good football player. He just got to gain confidence and gain consistency so it just snaps out of his hand.
As a running back, who are some young guys you're looking forward to watching this spring?
Well, we've made the wholesale change to put Jackson in at running back, and I think that's probably the big thing. He'll play some fullback, but if you guys noticed in the bowl game, he played some true running back for us, and that's what we've just put him with Coach Anderson and said, go through all the meetings and let's see how far we can take it with Jax, because he's gives us a different dimension for sure running the football. He's got good hands. He'll be able to protect. And now, whether it's Jordan Shippers, whether it's DJ Giddens, I mean, those are a couple that are taking some of the reps. Devin Withers is out this spring with an injury he sustained in the fall. And so we don't have a lot of numbers there. And, we're trying to protect Deuce a little bit. He doesn't need to have he'll run a lot of the non-contact drills and things like that, and 7-on-7 and some team period. But he's not going to be in any of the scrimmage situations, so it's going to come down to Shippers, Jackson, and DJ.
I see you have 16 returning starters, 10 players that earned all Big 12 last year. You won 5 of your last 7 games. What kind of momentum does this team have, Chris?
Well, that was great. All those things are last year, and we talked about resetting it. And, there's great optimism. There's great excitement. But, we've got to turn the page, flip the script to 2022, and we do have some good players coming back. But we also have to continue to find some other guys and see what guys can make a leap, make a jump that maybe played a limited role or didn't play at all, or are new to the program that can add great value and great depth for us, because we saw it last year. You're going to need everybody. You're going to need the third linebacker. You're going to need the third or fourth safety. You're going to need the second or third quarterback. You're going to need multiple tight ends and wideouts. And so that's the big challenge right now is we have great competition with the guys that are out there at a number of spots. We're down, obviously, numbers at a number of spots. So we have to emphasize the guys in the positions that we have a lot of and give those guys great opportunities, whether that's one-on-ones with DBs and wideouts to O-line stuff. We have to find ways to keep pushing people forward.
You can tell that guys didn't play too long ago. How did that maybe manifest itself in that first practice with the energy level and things like that?
Well, just we have most of our skill kids back on offense, and quarterbacks and Jaron and Will that know the offense, and tight ends back. So that was fun to just watch those guys, and we were much further along on install on offense, much further along than we'd been in the past. And guys running around with confidence and making plays and having excitement. And then on defense, there's a couple guys that have played a lot of football. Daniel Green's played a lot of football for us, and he's trying to help some of the younger linebackers. Julius and Echo have played a ton of football for us. They're trying to help the safeties that are kind of coming along. And so it's just neat to see the mixture of veteran guys that are stepping up from a leadership role and stepping up from an accountability role, and making sure that the next wave of guys, you don't have a chance to just get your feet wet. We need to have you ready to roll and ready to play fast.
What do you expect from Deuce Green?
He'll take the next step, and for him, I think that is more probably pre-snap stuff. Kid's a really good football player, as we all know. He's physical, he runs well, he covers well. It's just the pre-snap stuff of seeing things before they happen and being even a better communicator. That's what we need to get from Deuce, and he's capable of doing that, and he's ready for that to make everybody around him better by really talking and seeing things that he's seeing pre-snap, so everybody knows.
How close is Taylor Portier at this point?
He's close. He's probably further along than like Khalid. We have to be smart with Taylor as well. We don't want to have him have any setbacks. But he's moving around doing a lot of drills. We'll keep him out of contact things right now. But we're just trying to get him back into the groove of playing football again, because he's a really good player that we missed last year. And him, it's just getting his confidence back in his knee. That's the biggest thing.
Time in a few years you haven't added a transferred tight end. Does that mean this is a pretty critical spring for the guys returning?
Yeah. I've been really impressed in the winter with Sammy Wheeler. We were excited that Sammy chose to come back because he's already graduated. And Sammy's taken on a great leadership role, and he's bigger, he's stronger, he's fit into that tight end role now, and I think he's going to lead that group. He's done a tremendous job. Ben Sennett is a good player. That's a young player that I think has got so much ability, and he's just scratching the surface. And Ben's got to have a really good spring, because I think he can be better than what he even was last year. And then guys like Will Swanson, we're counting on. Connor Fox is coming off an injury, but we're counting on him. We have some good depth there. But who's going to be that guy opposite of Sammy?
Isn't it on scholarship now too?
Yeah.
And then I know that Brian Lepak's kind of been in his position since bowl prep, but how has he kind of settled into his new role?
Done a really, really good job, and the guys were excited when Brian was hired. Brian's a great energy guy. Obviously, he's very intelligent, knows the game of football really well, can explain the game of football well, does a lot of things for our staff with data analytics and stuff. And Brian was ready for this opportunity, and he probably, similar to Colin, wanted to prove that he was the guy throughout that bull prep. And we talk about how Colin did and how excited we were for him gaining that role of offensive coordinator, I was just as excited for Brian LePack, because Brian earned the job with how he handled that tight end fullback room and how those guys played and how those guys' preparation was.
And then you guys have kind of announced him over the last couple weeks, but can you kind of give a rundown of your new analyst and what you like about what they've bring?
So Clint Brown we hired to. He's a defensive guy, and I've known Clint forever because he was at South Dakota State. He's going to help on the offensive side. He's going to replace Brian LePack, and so I'm excited for Clint because he'll give that offense a different perspective, being a defensive guy, and great experience on his side. And then on offense, we hired Josh Buford, an old high school coach in the Park Hill district of KC-Mo, and he's come in. He's just started this week. Excited about him as well. And then we still have Matt Cardulis and David Orloff on the defensive side that I can't say enough great things about. Those two make our operation on defense go because of their organization and how smart those guys are.
Who are you looking at center to replace Noah right now?
A number of people. Well, Hayden Gillum's probably taken the most snaps there from a practice standpoint, being Noah's true backup. Last year, Hadley Panzer is another guy that we're going to give a bunch of reps to see if he can. He's been a guard, but we think he can be a really good center. We need to have some depth there. And then we moved Sam Shields there a little bit too. Sam's been more of a guard throughout his time, but we need to continue to develop centers, and so we have those three guys for the most part taking most of the reps, and we'll see. It's a pretty wide open position. That's the one spot on the offensive line that we may move some people around with Beebs and Duff, and we know we've got Taylor coming back, and a kid like Andrew Leingang is going to be really good, but the center spot we've got to get solidified this spring.
With Adrian, when would you anticipate he would be able to start throwing again?
Probably May. I think his progression starts here in April. I don't see him throwing much in March, or if it is, it's Nerf balls and things like that. Pretty similar to Skyler. And I think in April he'll start throwing a little bit more, but we're not going to put him in a spot in a team drill where anybody could bang into him or anything. So I would say maybe later April, for sure in May. He'll get a full May, June, and July to be around the guys and develop that camaraderie with receivers and tight ends.
Yeah, Kellis actually asked one of my questions about the center, but just the interior offensive line in general, the three guys you're replacing starters.
Yeah, well, TP was essentially a starter, so we feel good about, Taylor replacing either Revo or Ben. So if we get Taylor back healthy, I'm excited about what he's going to be able to bring, because he's a really good player. Andrew Leingang's growth, maybe being a guard or a tackle, allows us to have BB play some guard and tackle as well. Hadley Panzer's played guard and center. Katori Levinston, based on how far along Carver Willis comes, how far Whit Mitchum comes, we've got some good depth there, could also fit into that interior role. So I like the fact that Riles has got a number of guys to work with. Some of these guys are coming off some injuries that, like TP, that I don't know how much they're going to be able to fully participate this spring, but we have a core group of guys, and we just got to make sure that whether it's we put the stress on a Cooper Beebe or a KT, somebody that's been around, to be a swing guy that's got to play guard and tackle.
So is that's something you're looking at with Beebe,
You
is
bet.
maybe moving him inside?
You bet.
Just your thoughts on the wide receiver group and what you expect to see from them out of this spring.
Great experience, great playmaking ability. Excited to have as many guys back as we do. I think Landry's the only one that and Eric Hommel that played significantly for us. But between Phillip, Malik, and Cade, those are the three that played the most late in the season. Those three really understand the game well, understand our offense well, are good leaders, and productive players. I'm excited to see this spring how Sebastian Taylor does. I think he's finally healthy. Unfortunately for Seabass, he just was never healthy in the fall, and he knew it. He would be the first one to tell you, I was not healthy the entire fall. His injury occurred, middle of December of 20, so he didn't get his surgery. So it's been a little over a year now, and sometimes that's what it would take on that kind of an injury. So I'm excited for Seabass. I think Ty Bowman's going to bring something to the table, that he's one of our better special teams guys, and I love that out of a wide receiver. And then a guy that just made a couple of splash plays today, RJ Garcia, is a really talented player, and he made a couple really splash plays today at practice that, we've got him in Phillips' spot. But I'm excited because RJ is a dynamic player.
Landry at the beginning of that answer. I was just curious the discussion that you had with him before he reached his recent decision to step away from the game.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since I've communicated with Landry, but I know he had some difficult decisions that were all going to be positive, no matter what he chose and what path he chose. And it was a matter of him deciding that he's okay with being done with football, and he's got a greater calling. And, I'm excited because I'm going to be able to say that I coached a guy that's going to go to the priesthood and be a priest, and maybe I can take care of some of my sins later on, and I can call Landry, and he can come in and help me out. But what a great, great young man, great family, and excited for the future with Landry.
I wonder, with having 3 players, transfers coming from the same school in Nebraska, do those guys, have you noticed they have any kind of special bond, or is it made it easier for them to?
Without a doubt. You see those 3 guys hanging around, but I also see those guys interacting with the team, and they fit in really well. Once again, I thought we did a really good job of vetting the guys that we brought into the program. That came from different schools, and I've been very pleased to see how they all just fit in. I'll give you a great example. When I walked over to practice at the indoor today, all 4 quarterbacks got out of the same car, and that tells me an awful lot. That those kids accept Adrian, and Adrian is fitting into that crew. I see Josh Hayes hanging out with Echo and Julius, guys he's competing with. We all want the same thing. We all want to be successful and have a chance to win, and we all know we need each other. And it's something that's really important. You have to make our locker room better to be a part of this team, and all those guys do.
How valuable was it to get Colin that one-game scenario to kind of break him in?
I think it helped him as far as not just the game. I think the preparation is what was so important for him, is to be out in front leading all of us for 3 weeks. And granted, we were on the road a little bit, but he was out in front and leading everybody and getting the practice plans and the game plan together. And he leans on everybody on offense and does a really good job of getting input from other people, and then coming up with a collective idea and saying, here's what we're going to do. I think the game will help him, but I think the preparation is probably even more valuable to him.
How do you see your cornerback depth at present?
The corners? Well, obviously we have Julius and Echo that have played an awful lot of ball for us. I know that Josh Hayes is a really good football player. I've been around him enough to know that he's going to have an impact for us, whether or not it's at a corner or as an inside nickel player, because he can do some of the things that Reggie did. So he's going to play an awful lot for us. We have a couple of younger players that are growing and learning that. Who knows? Are they as experienced as those 3 in front of them? Probably not, but they're going to get their opportunity, and I'm excited to see this spring how they do competing against those good wideouts.
What's the impact of having Cade Warner come back this year?
Huge. Great leadership, great a guy that walks the walk and does what he says he's going to do. I've been as impressed with him as I have anybody on the football team, as far as Cade doesn't have a bad day. Cade loves life, and Cade is as impactful off the field getting guys to come watch film, getting guys to play spike ball outside and hanging out with people in the performance table, to what he does in the weight room, to what he does on the field. He is the spark right now. We knew we had to try to fulfill what we lost with Noah Johnson, and that's a hard job to kind of galvanize the whole offense. And right now, Cade's done a really good job. There's other guys that are going to do it, but Cade's kind of taken that reign and said, I'll be the guy that jumps out in front. And we were so excited when Cade decided to come back. And he had a good bowl game too. You know, he was in the mix, had a lot of targets, was excited about what we were doing moving forward with the offense, as we all are. And Cade's going to have a big impact in our pass game.
How about as a technician? What makes him so, I guess, good?
Great route runner, knows how to beat leverage, knows how to get open, does as good a job as anybody of building a rapport with the people that are throwing the football to you. And he's watching film with all the QBs he's watching film with. He's throwing. Obviously, he can't throw with Adrian. He's done that in the past, but he can't do that right now. So he's got Jake, and he's got Will, and he's got Jaron, and they're throwing balls all the time and talking about things and helping a kid like RJ, helping a guy like Ty from alignments to stances to reading coverages. You know, there's a selfless guy. We talk about one of our core values of being selfless. You know, Cade wants to win. Yeah, he wants balls thrown to him and those things, but he wants to win and he wants to have an impact on guys, and that's fun to see as a coach when you have a guy that is all in and wants what's best for everybody on the team. Got our big pro day tomorrow. Got a bunch of guys back for pro day, and most of them are out at practice, so I'm excited for those guys to have an opportunity to showcase their talents. I got a quick conversation with Sky about his time in Indy, and it was pretty special, pretty cool to watch him grow, and I'm excited for him as well as all the other guys to go out and perform tomorrow morning.